take that lame shot. I got a better shot.
We want to thank Sprint PCS, the replacement for cellular. They're the official communication provider for the KIRO television production crew.
And what you're looking at right here are frogmen and what is left of the Freddy's Club boat as they begin to pull it out of the water. We'll come back and show you that in a minute. First to the presentation stage and the winner of Heat 3B.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to, on behalf of Simrad, congratulate Mitch Evans and the Geronimo team for the winning the Heat 3B for the Texaco Seafair race.
All right. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Geronimo team, you know, we'd really like to still thank Simrad for sponsoring the Heat. Without people and sponsors like this, we wouldn't be here. So thank you very much.
That's Mitch Evans. While the air show continues, let's go back down to the beach and Margot Kim.
Steve, there are so many memories being made here at Seafair by the hour, starting with this great weather that we've been having all day. But some people have very treasured keepsakes to remember Seafair forever.
Since I'm a hydro fanatic.
Neil Jimenez is here for one thing, to see the thrilling hydro races. Once a year he gets a chance to wear his most prized possession, this shirt given to him by Chip Hanauer, one of the greatest hydro drivers. Besides the treasured souvenir, Neil collects the trading cards of the drivers.
And I have Dave Vilwalk, who drives the Budweiser right now, but he's pictured here.
Neil has heard the talk. People are losing interest in hydro races, but he's determined to keep the sport alive.
Sponsors are losing interest, but as you can see, the crowd that we're developing here today and that we develop like in Tri-Cities all the time, I think it'd be worth it if they would still do that. And it's a unique sport here, especially in the Northwest.
Another pastime in the Northwest and around the country is pin trading. And here at Seafair, it's a serious hobby that brings back memories of years past.
Well, just that, the memories, I guess, you know, when my dad brought me and my family would come down and go through the pits when we were kids, and brought my son down yesterday, and we did the same thing. So it's kind of tradition. It's a lot of fun. I love the hydroplanes.
Steve, as you know, those collector pins are handed down from generation to generation, so kids of all ages, of course, enjoy Seafair. Back to you.
Margot, thank you. Tony Ventrella is now with Jim Harvey, who is looking over what's left of his boat. Tony?
Steve, we're trying to figure out how to flip Freddy's Club over without doing even more damage. Actually, Jim Harvey's got his back turned as he's watching what's going on here. What are you trying to do? Flip it over without crunching it even more on the hard surface, or what?
Yeah, we've got the rudder still attached and everything, and we're in deep water out there, but we're trying to get it high enough to where it'll clear the bottom, and then they'll pull it out from underneath it, swing the boom over, and flop it down.
Now, you haven't had much of a look yet, but just your assessment from this angle, does it look like a long, long time, or is there any way in the world you might get it ready for San Diego, or am I just dreaming?
We have Madison in I think Labor Day weekend, and that's a month. And I guess I can't get the shed built in my house right now, so I was going to take a day or two off. I think I'm going to be working on this boat.
So the shed will wait. That won't be ready, but the boat will.
Well, that doesn't surprise my wife. I promise her every year that I'm going to build it. And I found another excuse not to. So.
There you go. All right, Jim. The good news is Steve David is okay, and you can always patch up a boat, I suppose, even though it gets expensive.
Very much so.
Okay, thanks, Jim Harvey. They're still trying to get this thing righted and figure out exactly how much damage there is, and there is a whole lot, as you guys can see from your vantage point, Steve.
We'll keep watching that story, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Here at the Appian Geronimo, they're making last-minute preparations, and as you can see, a tremendous amount of work needs to be done before the finals. Mike and Scott, what's going on here?
Well, we're looking at an engine change right now. I would imagine that this is the engine that John Walters, the crew chief, had anticipated would be the hottest thing they have, and it appears as though they're going to put it in for just that much more speed. You know, they did run several different laps in qualifying faster than the Budweiser's best. But because of the N2 violation, that's the RPM reference we made a little earlier in the show, they got those laps scrubbed off, unfortunately, and not part of the record book. But he had one lap in the high 150s and one approaching 160 miles an hour on this 2-mile course. That is really smoking. And they're going to remove one motor and put the better one in, the hottest one they've got in the box. And my anticipation is that they've been planning to do this all along, that their game plan has been followed virtually to the letter. notwithstanding the problem that they had with the tail feathers being ripped off of the race boat in an earlier heat. But nothing has really upset their game plan all day, and they're going to be ready to go for broke. There's John Walter. He's the brain trust. First guy, by the way, ever to drive a turbine-powered unlimited hydroplane to victory. It was 1981, and it was in Syracuse, New York. And John, of course, was involved in that now almost legendary double somersault flip in the pay and pack over the waters of the Columbia River in the Tri-Cities in 1980. He also had a pretty bad crash here that ended his driving career in 1982. He was the brain trust of the Miller American for a period of time, as well as a crew chief, and also with the Tide team and Mr. Pringle's team. So he's one of the best guys you want to have on deck when it comes time to do something mechanical.
Well, he is, and he's also was a member of our KIRO broadcast team for a number of years too, Mike. So the guy wears a lot of hats, and a very talented gentleman, and we wish him the best. The final is coming up, still about 20-25 minutes away from the championship race here at the Texaco Cup at Seafair. We'll be back with more after this. The action continues at Lake Washington as we're still minutes away from the final, the championship heat at the Texaco Cup at Seafair. A lot of the action has certainly been in the water and in the skies, and the fun action today certainly has been out on the log boom, and Brian Wood's been out there all day. Brian?
That's right, a lot of people out here having fun, but you know, earlier we saw that flip by the Freddy's Club, Steve David, and the quick response by the emergency crews who jumped right on it. Well, now, let me take you back to a time long before we had these professionals and all this sophisticated equipment. 43 years ago, to two teenagers who ended up heroes.
3/4 of the way through the back stretch, and he's moving into the...
The 1955 Gold Cup, Lou Fagel in the slow motion 5 flip. But in their 14-foot home-built skiff, the O'Byrne boys were on duty.
That's us, yeah.
16-year-old Mike and 14-year-old Eddie O'Byrne raced to help and spotted a life jacket.
We luckily headed for that and grabbed a hold of the life jacket, and he was under the water, floating face down under the water with most of his clothes ripped off. And we just grabbed the life jacket, all we could do with two little kids, and we just held him and the life jacket out of the water.
And saved Lou Fagel's life. Yeah. 43 years later, Mike O'Byrne still has a piece of the slow motion's tail. You can still read Lou Fagel's autograph on the back. The boys were heroes in the news.
Eddie and Mike O'Byrne spent the most exciting afternoon of their lives yesterday in Lake Washington. Truly was the most exciting afternoon of their lives.
But it was a tragically short life for young Eddie.
Really, the sad thing is my brother died from leukemia about 3 years after this happened.
He went completely around. I don't know whether Lou is still in the boat or not.
Mike O'Byrne still thinks about that August day in '55 and thinks about what has happened all too often since.
Every time one of them starts to kite, whether I'm out there watching them or on television, my stomach turns upside down. It still affects me.
Yeah, it still affects him. You can bet he is watching the race now. He's been a fan of the Hydros for all these years. Matter of fact, he's a longtime boater, a sailor. He won the '86 Victoria to Maui sailboat race. His college kids, they're out here on the family boat, on the logboat. Steve?
Brian, quite a story, and his is not the only stomach that turns every time we see one of those boats kite, I'll tell you. Brian, thanks so much. We take a break. Come back with more in a minute. And welcome back to the 1998 Texaco Cup at Seafair. As you were looking at what's left of the Freddy's Club boat slowly, ever so slowly being righted and lifted out of the water. They finally got it over on the right side. But it's going to be a lot of work. But as you heard Jim Harvey say, they hope to have it ready to go for Madison and then on to San Diego after that. Meantime, we told you a little earlier in this broadcast about the death back in April of Steve Woomer, boat owner, wonderful guy, longtime figure in this sport, and really one of the movers and shakers, died of a heart attack. Because of his untimely death, some of the biggest names in this sport are not working hydroplane racing this season. And I'm talking about Mark Tate, the driver, and Jim Lucero, one of the best crew chiefs there's ever been. He's with our Bill Wixie. Bill?
Thanks, Steve. I'm standing by with Jim Lucero, the winningest crew chief in hydroplane history. You've been watching the races today. How does this one shape up? Who can beat the Bud, and how do they do it?
I really think there's 2 or 3 boats that have a strong possibility of beating the Bud. I think that obviously the Geronimo boat, which has turned in some really quick times in qualifying, has run very well here today during the heat races. I really think the Pico has something that they're not necessarily showing in the heat races. They won the race last week up in Kelowna. Mark Evans is pretty crafty when it comes down to the final. And Nate Brown, I think, is a real sleeper out there. He's run consistently, and I know that Nate never shows everything he has until he gets to the final. But the real key here, the joker in this whole race, is the clock start. You know, when the last year when they were running the flag start, everything was kind of predicated on qualifying. If you were #1 qualifier, and if you got any kind of breaks at all, you were probably going to end up in the #1 lane for the final, and most of the time the boat in the #1 lane won the final. Here, if you've got a good driver, he can make up for 2 or 3 or 4 miles an hour of lack of boat speed by being a smart starter. If he gets his competition out of position, if he hits the line going fast, if he's in the lane that he wants to be, much like what happened last week up in Kelowna, Dave Vilbach really had the field covered in the Miss Budweiser, but they ended up taking a 3rd in the final. I think that can happen here.
You talk about these boats being of equal engine power for the most part. What makes one boat travel at 140 miles an hour and another travel at 160? What is that? You have kind of a theory on that, don't you?
Well, I kind of look at it like handling your budget. You have so much money in your paycheck, and as you go through the week or the 2 weeks, you take a look at it, and a little bit comes out for income tax, a little bit comes out for sales tax, a little bit goes to your tax on your house. Something like taxes. Everything in the boat, you start out with a given amount of horsepower, but everything in the boat tends to take a little bit of that horsepower away. The gearbox takes some away. That's a little tax there. You've got some in the shaft line with the bearings. There's a little bit of a tax. Maybe the driver goes out and he scrubs off some speed. There's some tax.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the boat isn't quite as good aerodynamically as the other boats. There's some more tax. Bad thing is, it's also just being like in business, where the guy with a lot of money and has a large amount,
like the Budweiser,
yeah. He's also the one that can afford the high-priced tax attorneys and accountants. So not only does he have a lot to start with, he can find out ways to not have so much of his money taxed. The same way with the boat. If you have the technology, you don't lose as much.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jim Lucero. I'm sure he'd love to be in one of these crews today, working on one of these boats for the finals, but he's going to have to stand here and watch it from the sidelines like the rest of us.
Bill, before he goes, Jim Lucero is the winningest pit crew chief in the history of the sport. This has got to be killing him not to be working the race today.
Is this killing you, just to not be working on a boat right now and getting ready for the final?
Actually, I think this is the first time I've actually been able to enjoy the Seattle race in 30 years. I can be relaxed. I can go down and visit with my friends. Yeah. People will get upset when I walk into their pit area. It's really pretty nice.
Well, it has been a terrific Sunday. I can't blame you for enjoying it today. Back up to you, Steve.
All right, and I don't care what Jim Lucero says. He wants to have a boat out on the water. He wants to be competing today. Let's go down to Tony Ventrella.
Thanks, Steve. Our keen eye has detected something going on here in the Budweiser camp. Why? For gosh sakes, they're breaking the boat down. Are they giving up? Are they going home before it's over? Oh no, that's right. They've got 2 hulls. That's the T3. They don't need it. They're getting ready for the trailer so they don't have to be here till midnight. That's the T5. That'll be running in the final a few minutes from now. Thank goodness our sharp journalistic wit has gotten us through again. Let's stay here for a second because I got Shelley Seiler here. Shelley is the therapist that worked with Dave Vilbach after he lost 2 fingers on his right hand. And it was a long, hard road back, but boy, I guess it worked out well, didn't it?
It was. Luckily, he's left-handed, and it was his right hand, so that was helpful. And he's extremely motivated and really a dedicated guy. I wish we could kind of bottle up that motivation to get other patients back to work like we did with him.
Just give me an idea. What was the first thing you had to do, the first couple of sessions? Was it more mental than anything else?
Not at all. He focused quite extensively on getting his fingers moving again. He had a lot of fractures and tendon injuries, and it was really just to get him moving. His mental attitude needed no help. It was quite amazing.
And it worked out well.
Yeah.
It looks like he could be a winner again here today.
Oh, I hope so. There's never been any doubt in his mind that he'll get right back to racing.
All right, Shelley Seiler, thank you very much. Worked with Dave Vilbach to get him back to where he is now. 3 victories already this year, and maybe another one a few minutes from now. Steve, back to you.
Tony, you're right. The winner will be decided. The finals coming up at the Texaco Cup.
defending champions. You're in the final. You're ready to go here. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think if Mark gets a good run at the inside, he's going to be really hard to beat in this heat.
Ken, thanks for being with us. Pico won last week. Let's see if they can do it again here in Seattle for the second year in a row. Steve?
He was talking about Mark Evans, the driver of the Pico. What about Mitch Evans, his brother, the driver of the Appian Geronimo? Bill Wixie's with him.
Thanks, Steve. Mitch, we've talked about it all day. You've had success all day. What is the key here in the final against the Budweiser?
You're just going to have to go out and run hard. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit of lane position that's going to be real key to this whole race, and the middle period, getting lined up. Make sure everybody's clean, Penalties are what kill you, obviously, for the final. So we're going to go out and race real hard, and you're going to see a heck of a race.
What's the key to that start? How do you time that thing just right?
It's really kind of tough, You have timing points out there that I kind of look for, and I just kind of, do my own race. But just being in the right place, at certain timing points throughout the whole course is the key. And the mix with everybody else out there kind of makes that difficult sometimes. So you have to have a little bit of luck go along with that. But generally, I can get out there and get the job done.
Us media guys have some sort of a conspiracy theory we're talking about. Is there some sort of a conspiracy against the Budweiser here in the pit?
The theory is to go out and just kick their ass, get right after them. I mean, that's the bottom line. Here we are, Seafair Sunday. It doesn't get any better than this, so we're going to race hard.
Real good. Mitch Evans and the Appian Geronimo, they are going to go hard at the Bud in the final.
Wow, that's not all they're going to do from the sounds of things. Mitch Evans is serious. We'll be right back. Back along the shores of Lake Washington, and we're getting ever so close to racing time. The championship for the Texaco Cup at Seafair 1998. The Elam Plus boat just being lifted into the water. I can see from my vantage point 480 feet above the pits. The Pico American Dream is also in the water. In fact, most of the boats now. The Budweiser is on the sling. It's being lifted. It's in the midair right now. It's being swung around into position, and they will be in the water shortly. And pretty soon, we're going to go racing with the fastest boats that the Unlimited Hydroplane Circuit has to offer. Down in that Bud pit, incidentally, is our Tony Ventrella.
Thanks, Steve. My keen eye has picked up a couple of features on the Budweiser boat. First of all, the bug screen. This big piece of plexiglass that appears to be a bug screen. There is a real reason that's there, and Lauren Sawyer's here to explain it to me. Then we'll get to the steering wheel later. Why the bug screen?
Well, Tony, in the wind tunnel, we found that when the boat's in a little bit of yaw or sideways slip, much like Steve David during his blowover and ours last year, that you create a lot of lift over the top of the sponson. What we're trying to do is make that into some down pressure and then lift and try to bring that right sponson back down. We haven't been in the attitude he was in. I can't say it would have helped him, but this is something we added that we learned in the wind tunnel.
All right, and now the special steering wheel. This we've heard about with the right hand that will accommodate Dave Vilwalk and just the three fingers that he has on there. It's kind of like the top of a ski pole, as John Love explained to me a minute ago, right?
Exactly. It gives him a lot of grip here. You can see by the form of it that he can actually get around with the top two fingers. Of course, the bottom two aren't there. Gives him a lot of grip, and he can go ahead and do his job the way he needs to do it.
And it works great. And of course, this in the middle is the horn in case he wants to
let people know that he wants to get by. Yeah.
Always a good idea. Always a good plan. Steve Rabel, obviously we're talking about this boat because they've got almost identical boats here. This is the one that clearly is not running in the final, but it sure looks a lot like the one that is. Back to you, Steve.
Tony, the one that is running, we can see it right there, and Dave Vilwalk is standing outside the cockpit, but he soon will be strapped inside, hooked up to the radios, hooked up to the oxygen mask, and he'll be ready to go racing against guys that perhaps have been talking amongst themselves on how to keep the big red boat out of the winner's circle today. We've got that story. We've got the story of the Appian Geronimo. They rebuilt the tail feathers. They're going to go racing here in a few minutes. Perhaps the fastest competition on the water to give the Bud a race today. That's Mitch Evans. Mark Evans, his brother. Have those two guys been talking? You know, their pits are only within a couple of slips of each other. Have they been chatting about how to keep the Budweiser in the hole all day long? And again, Steve David, who will be following the race, we hope, from Harborview, feeling a little better today. Steve, take care of yourself. In the meantime, when we come back, it's time for the championship of the Texaco Cup at Seafair 1998.
The final heat is presented for Seafair by Texaco's Starmart.
The 1998 Seafair Texaco Cup Final Heat is brought to you by Texaco, a world of energy.
I have no idea. Well, it's just about time to go racing now. Just about championship time. Folks on the shoreline have been watching all day. The log boom has been settling in ready. The drivers are set, and we begin by talking about one of the two fastest boats out on the course today, Mitch Evans in the Appian Geronimo. Scotty?
Well, he's been perfect all day. He's had 3 heat wins. He has a 1,200-point day going so far. Mitch is very, very capable. He needs to learn how to win, and I think he's learning how today.
He's never been here before. He won the '89 Columbia Cup, but it came to him. He was in the right place at the right time. This time he drives for it for the first time in his life. Mitch Evans.
Will he make owner Jerry Rice proud? Let's go to the pits and find out from Bill Wixie.
Well, there's certainly a good possibility of that, Steve. The Appian crew making final adjustments. You saw earlier they changed engines. They say that will not make any bit of difference. They think this one will run a little bit better. Mitch inside, stroking his lucky rabbit's foot, and he's going to need a little luck to beat the Bud here in the final.
Let's go to the Bud camp. There you see the confab going on. The cockpit's still open. Dave Vilwalk talking to his crew.
Well, he's obviously the boat to beat. He had a little miscue in his start, but he's had the fastest speed of the day, the fastest lap of the day. He needs to get fouled up at the start for these guys to have a chance.
That's exactly the case, and they're going to try to foul him up. The conversation's got to be exactly that scenario, and they're telling him there's at least one boat here as fast as we are, we believe.
Are they tense down there in the pits, Tony?
Well, I see Bernie now stepping up, getting ready to give Dave a few last words. Mark Smith, the young crew chief here, boy, he's been around a while. Mark's only 34 years old. We'll be talking to him when this race is over, no matter how they do. Big day for him. He was a shop sweeper for Jim Lucero a few years back, so it's a big time for Mark. I don't know what the advice is. When Bernie steps back out of the boat, I will see what he has to say. It seems to me they got the power, and if they get in the position they need to be, it's all over. But Mike disagrees with me, I think. Right, Mike?
Yeah, I think that they've got matched in power, and it depends on how they break at the start and what lane they're in as to whether or not they win today. I don't think they can drive around everybody. They can drive around most of them.
Let's see what the Lumar window film can do with Nate Brown at the controls. They had not what they wanted in a finish here in 3B.
Well, he's a spoiler. Nate Brown has led races before. He's never won a race. He was out front in Hawaii. I've seen him out front in other places. The boat is capable of going fast. 5 laps, it's a doable thing. He could be a spoiler here.
Things could shake out in his way. Again, that 5 laps is a very important situation. This is not a 3-lapper, but a 5-lapper. That's important because you got to live as well as go fast. And Nate has had a way of doing that in all the finals he's in.
Elam Plus with Jimmy King. And is Jimmy King experienced enough to win this race?
Well, he hasn't been up until this point, but I think he learned a lot today. He kind of tripped over himself. That boat is fast. That thing is flat fast running down the straightaway.
I think there's more boat than there is driver in this one. The Elam, I think, is a little much to handle along with this field for Jimmy King. If he gets a good start and gets lucky, things could be different for the Elam, but I expect Jimmy's going to slip back.
Well, let's see if he keeps the boat on the water. Let's hope so. Bill Rocky's in the Elam pits. Bill?
Actually, we're over at the Pico right now. Mark Evans just got in the boat, and there's a sense of seriousness here. They've been kind of joking around all day, having a good time. You can tell right now it's the final heat. It's the final heat for the defending champion, and he's going to go out there and go for it and see if he can win this for a second year in a row. Steve?
All right, Bill Rocky. Let's go to the Tweetins RV Mart. That's Ken Moscatel pulling away from the dock. The boats are now starting to head out to the course, led by Ken Moscatel.
Well, Ken, I think, has had a fantastic day. He's run 3/3. He's run within himself. He hasn't had his boat out of shape, and let's just hope for a good finish for him.
What do you think, Mike?
For Ken Moscatel, nothing to lose. Drive your heart out. That's what he'll do. He could very well be a factor. If there is a conspiracy, I think Kenny might be part of it.
Bill Wixie's in that pits. Bill?
Well, I'll tell you what, we certainly don't encourage wagering on the hydros, but if you were a betting man and you wanted a long shot, you found it with the Tweetins. 50-1, probably a good odds on this boat to win here, but certainly a boat that could be a factor. Roger Newton of the Tweetins camp with me here. Roger, how's the boat run? You think you got a shot?
The boat's running real good, but we need to go for the inside and just hope something happens to the faster guys, but we're going to give it a try.
Is there a conspiracy theory? We're going to approach this one more time.
I've heard that, but nobody ever said anything to me about that.
Okay, so if there's a conspiracy theory, the Tweetins is not involved, contrary to common belief. Back to you.
All right, Bill. He was the flip and win guy from a year ago, Mark Evans in the Pico American Dream.
Well, Mark is the driver of this race, and he's been down on power and down on equipment, but if he gets the inside, he is one tough cookie.
Is he ready, Michael?
He's ready. I think they put the bullet in at this time. The question is whether or not that's the bullet that can beat the Bud and his brother. Don't know necessarily that it could, but I can expect that he's going to try to get in Budweiser's face just a little bit anyway before he delivers whatever it is he has.
Finally, they won one heat today. Jerry Hale at the controls of the U19 boat. The Chaplin's Bellevue Volkswagen presents the Easter Seals.
Well, he's got a tough road to hoe. He's going to be a rooster tail back at the start. He's what we call our trailer boat. Basically, that's you're put in that position so if somebody else breaks up front, it gives the owner and the driver a chance to pick up a few bucks, and he'll do well to run the 5 laps and get a nice, get a finish here.
I think Scotty said it all. The only trailer ever to win, 1993 at San Diego, the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, but everybody else busted or went dead or incurred a penalty for that to happen. It just isn't likely.
Well, there the boats are. They're out on the course. Let's set the field one more time for you. The championship of the Texaco Cup at Seafair stacks up like this. You have the Appian Geronimo and Mitch Evans, followed by the Budweiser with Dave Villwock, the Lumar window film and Nate Brown, U16 Miss Elam Plus and Jimmy King, the Tweetens RV Mark Ken Moscatel at the controls, that's U14, the Pico American Dream, the U100 boat, Mark Evans driving, and the Chaplin Volkswagen presents Easter Seals, Jerry Hale in the cockpit.
Well, the first thing you're seeing out here is there is not anybody on the inside of the Budweiser and shadowing him. So, the conspiracy theory is one that we want to see happen, but, well, here comes the Elam across the inner. Oh, that's Ken Muscatel. That's the Elam. Somebody needs to get inside of the Budweiser and push him around. That's the first thing they need to do.
And, of course, Dave's idea is just steer clear of everybody, right? Stay away from the other boats.
Well, that's what I would do. I mean, he has everything going his way. He doesn't want to get caught up with these guys, but somebody needs to go rabbit him right now.
Although on the outside, he does not want to be. Way outside, I don't think that'd be a good idea at the start because Dave would tend to have to drive around a whole lot of race boats. He's got tremendous boat speed, but he doesn't want to drive a 3-mile course to win a 2-mile race. And that being the case, Dave Villwock is probably going to try to find himself an inside lane, maybe 2, maybe 3. I don't think he's going to try to yank lane number 1 necessarily, but he could. Nevertheless, if he does get inside some of that traffic, that's exactly how they can close the door on him. And I think that Dave Villwock is thinking that. And this is his to lose, not necessarily his to win. If he gets to the outside, way outside, and has to drive around a lot of guys and mess through a whole bunch of traffic, this could be difficult. He did not do that successfully in Kelowna a week ago.
It looks like a slow walk coming up here to this south turn as Villwock now heads across.
Yeah. Mitch Evans is inside of him.
Yeah.
So Mitch Evans could conceivably,
They came very close together there.
Very close. In fact, he might have just put the fire out on the Appian. He did.
We have the 1-minute gun having been fired. The Appian may just have done himself in for this race.
He did.
The fire's still burning, but he's in bad shape, and that is an error that he's going to regret deeply, I'm sure. Inside the Budweiser, however, is the Pico right now. Mark managed to do what Mitch could not.
Boy, Mitch is kicking himself right now.
Yeah, he truly is, but
he still has time to make a great start if he just stands on it from here and goes.
That's it. If he's got a lot of speed and decides to go around and slingshot the situation, that could be fortuitous. He could turn a sow's ear into a silk purse real fast.
That's called going from a 0 to a hero in an instant.
That's exactly what he's going to try to do.
Way outside.
He has no choice.
Definitely coming on it. He's a little early, though. They all are just a touch fast.
Shade early.
But they're coming for it. Here comes the countdown on the inside. It is the Pico American Dream going to lead him across the line. It's a fair start. And look at that Appian Geronimo on the outside with the boat speed. Budweiser in lane number 2 is back just a tad in traffic. In fact, 2 or 3 boats may be able to close the door on the Bud.
Elam just took a bath. Elam just took a bath.
There's boats everywhere over there trying to get out of the way of each other. Out of the corner, it is the Pico American Dream out front. The Budweiser pursuing, and also the Lumar is in there. We got a bunch of boats crowding down into turn number 2. In fact, we got 4 of them. This boat race is by no means decided. The Pico American Dream, the leader, Mark Evans on the inside, did have some great boat speed, and he definitely showed it when he had to. Here comes the Budweiser on the outside. Looks like it's going to be a drag race to the start-finish line.
He drove him out hard. He did everything he could do. Budweiser's got some horsepower here.
Budweiser has some boat speed and some horsepower, which of course we knew they had, but it isn't tremendously relatively impressive. In other words, he's not absolutely pulling away. He's got about a boat length and a half, but the inside lane advantage still belongs to Mark Evans in the Pico. Now the question is if the Budweiser really has the outstanding horsepower to just run away. He's going to have to show it now because he's got to get himself out in some water where he can avoid getting hurt in.
Well, he's going to have enough room here at this other corner to shut the door on him, and that's going to be pretty much it for the Pico. At this point, Mark's going to have to wait for Dave Billwalk to make a mistake to make another move.
He is, and he's going to pack a little traffic in there also because we've got a trailing boat that's in front of the Miss Budweiser. Bud will cut to the inside.
Pico just went dead.
Pico is gone. Pico is down. That's the Elam on the outside as the Budweiser comes across the line. Yes, Mark Evans has no power to catch him now, but Mitch is still putting on some speed.
Well, he got it up and going again, but his brother's gone around him. Something happened. It looked like he caught a little bit of a rooster tail going into the corner there, Mike.
He did indeed. Jimmy King is almost a lap down on everybody at this point in the Elam. Not much of a factor at all. The second place boat is the Appian Geronimo, third the Pico, fourth the Lumar, and fifth it is the Tweetons at this point.
There goes Mark Evans. He's going after his brother. He's going to go take second again.
Mark is trying to overtake second place, but in the meantime, the Miss Budweiser has begun to run away with it here and has a full 1,000 feet now on the second place Pico. Dave has to be listening for gremlins and watching for rollers at this point because those are the only things that can get him now.
Yeah, he's clearly in control of the race, and he kept his nose clean, and that he did that, he was going to win, and he knew that.
Budweiser across the line. Remember, this is a 5-lapper. This Budweiser is out in front, and he has been able to afford a little bit to back down on speed, but because of the slop, he can't come back too far. Still getting a good ride is Mitch Evans trying to catch his brother Mark now. In between them is Jimmy King a lap down, and the Lumar Windows trails almost by a half a course length from the leader. Miss Budweiser turning it into a high-speed parade at this point in the final heat. Up into turn number 2 goes Dave Billwalk in the Bud. Halfway up the back chute is the second place boat, the Pico American Dream. Third place just behind the Pico, roof tail back is the Appian Geronimo. Fourth place the Lumar, and Ken Muscatel trying to reel in the Lumar in fifth place now as Muscatel drives the Tweeton RV Park. Bud across the line with a white flag. One more lap to go for Bernie Little's Beer Wagon, and a Lake Washington win for Dave Billwalk, who watched this race last year in the hospital. Will be in the record books for Dave.
Well, the experience showed, as we said, Mitch made a mistake on the start. Jimmy King made a mistake on the start. Those two boats really probably had the best chance, and that was the end of the deal.
That's exactly it, and the question was whether or not Mitch Evans was going to be able to do this. He'd had to get a perfect start to make it happen. He had never been there before, and he took himself out of the race. All right, half a course length to go now for the Miss Budweiser. The checker will fly across the line. Running dead last is the Chaplin's Bellevue Volkswagen. Presents the Easter Seals, but the checkered flag comes out. Miss Budweiser, a loser in Kelowna last week, a winner in Seattle this week. The Miss Budweiser wins the Texaco Cup at Seafair. Dave Billwalk claims the checkered flag in the big red boat. Second place, Mark Evans in the Pico American Dream, having resurrected himself to some extent after being watered down. The boat crossing the line now. The Elam still has one more lap to go. Gets a white flag instead. Now comes the checker, and the checker comes out for the Lumar instead of the Appian Geronimo because the Lumar picked up and beat Geronimo to the line. Appian Geronimo slipped back into fourth place.
Boy, Mitch just fell asleep there, or he has a problem in the boat, but he's just got to be very dispirited. I know he's such a competitor.
Hold the line here. We're getting a possibility here of some violation. I don't think there was a gun jumper out there at all. It looked, in fact, our clock went 0-0 before any boats crossed the line. So we'll have to double check this thing to be absolutely sure. Obviously, the officials have the only official finish, but I don't think there was any gun jumper. The checkered flag did come for the Budweiser at the end of 5, so I can't imagine she would have otherwise gotten the white flag and been sent around one more time. I got to think that the Budweiser clearly is your winner.
And there doesn't seem seems to be any consternation down on the finger pier at the Bernie Little Budweiser dock. In fact, they look like they're ready to party, and for them, it's just so businesslike. Yeah, they want to win, but yeah, they expect to win every time they go out and race.
Glenn Howie expects to win, but the start, they were at least a second and a half off the start the way I saw it. They weren't even close to the line. So. But weirder things have happened, haven't they?
Yes, they have, and unfortunately, that line has this tendency to shift around, which totally puzzles me. But in any event, I didn't see anybody over the line too soon, and I'm looking straight across it.
Well, unofficially then we have winning the Texaco Cup at Seafair. Unofficially right now we have the Budweiser winning. In second place, the Pico American Dream. Third place, the Lumar Window Film. Nate Brown sneaks in to grab third, and fourth is the Appian Geronimo. We still got a couple of boats that got slowed down early on, finishing up out on the course. The rest of the boats coming in, and we'll get the official word for you here in just a minute, but turned out to be not as close a race as we would have liked. Off the start, it was 6 rooster tails flying, and then the Budweiser, once it got that inside position, it just took off and ran away from the field. Congratulations all around. There's Mark Evans just climbing out of the Pico.
Well, after the day he's had today, he's probably thinking this is a win. That's the best he's ran for the whole day.
It has been a tough go for Mark Evans after the Flip and Win Championship from a year ago. Meantime, Dave Villwock on his boat as they have brought the Budweiser back into the pits. And he's climbing up on the wing as Dave Villwock. He's got something to say to his crew, and he wants to wave to the crowd. Dave Villwock on the wing of the Budweiser. He wins on a wing and a prayer and a whole lot of money from Bernie Little.
Good job, guys. Good job. Good job. Good job, Brian. David, a winner in CS.
Still had to drive it.
He did. He had to drive it, and he drove a good race. He stayed out of trouble, as you said. And I'll tell you, as Dave Villwock, who is no kid, I mean, he's been in the business a long time, but as he gets more and more experienced and gets working with that clock start, with his experience and, of course, the Budweiser team, they are one tough group to beat.
Well, they are. Dave got a late start. He's actually a year older than I am, but he didn't start racing until his late 30s. And in the Unlimiteds, he was racing limiteds for years and years and won a number of championships in those. But he, he's coming into his own. Of course, he needs to. He's got a lot to work with.
Let's go to Tony Ventrella with the winner of the Texaco Cup.
All right, jubilation. That's not my own word. That's a word we thought of when we saw these guys a couple of seconds ago. Pam Villwock, Dave Villwock, Bernie Little. Everybody's excited today. Nice ride out there.
Hey, thanks. Boat was awesome. I mean, it was really, really fast. And Mark Smith and the guys, they loaded a big bullet in there ready for the final. They've been working on it all day, and it had lots of suds when the time was for it, I tell you that.
Pam, you feeling pretty good, are you?
Feeling darn good. This is awesome.
Bernie. Actually, Shelley Saylor and her husband, the person that helped me fix my hand, was here, so it's a special day for all of us.
All right, yeah, we talked to Shelley a few minutes ago. In fact, she said you were very good about rehabbing. You're very good. About it. Bernie, of course, one of our crew, me, picked you guys to win. One of our other guys,
you're a lot smarter than Fitzsimmons. He's never been too smart, and I've done minutes with him before. He ought to know by now. He's not going to win.
Once you guys, all right, hey, Mark.
Good job.
Mark Smith, a quick word from you. You've been around a long time. 34 years old. You've been doing this for about 30 of those years, but this is a big one for you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's great to come back in Seattle and win. We've had a tough time here.
All right, listen, you guys have a good party tonight, okay?
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, Steve, back to you.
Tony, thanks. Congratulations to Dave Villwock and Bernie Little and company, the unofficial winners of the Texaco Cup. We understand that the Appian Geronimo has been disqualified. We'll have the final results for you from the championship race here on the shores of Lake Washington in just a minute.
The 1998 Seafair Texaco Cup Final Heat has been brought to you by Texaco, a world of energy.
The final heat has been presented for Seafair by Texaco's Star Marks.
It was a fun final heat, at least for a while. Then it became a high-speed parade, in the words of Mike Fitzsimmons. Bill Rocky's down in the pits with one of the competitors. Bill.
Well, it almost happened with the Pico 2 years in a row, but not quite. Great start, though, Mark. You had him for a second there.
Thank you. You know, we wanted to get the inside lane. We knew we just had to do that, even though it was early getting up there and you had to go really slow. That's a drag doing that, but you got to have the inside lane running against these guys. They're all so fast, you know. But, of course, my brother Mitch in the Appian and Jimmy King, they're all running fast. So our boss said the only chance we got is on the inside, so we went for it.
What happened up there in North Turn when you slowed down a second there?
Well, the guys had gained on me. They got their boat length, saw me, and they came across, and we just took some water again. It just, we can't get much water down the darn snouts or put the fire out. So I was immediately back on that starter and got her lit in time to get going. In fact, Nate Brown was a little discouraged when he saw that, but I went out chasing after him again. It worked out.
Had that not happened, do you think you had enough there? You were running real well. Do you think you had enough to get him?
Well, he was starting to pull me. I mean, we were on it, though, and we would have really given him a hard time, even if he would have given me room. But today the Pico came up from a situation that was looking pretty nil, and we're proud of that, you know, progress that we got.
Hey, Mark, thanks for all your help all day. Let's go over to the Appian crew and Bill Wixie.
Thank you, Bill. The Appian Geronimo, not the kind of final that they would have liked to have had. They claim that they were splashed in the infield by the Budweiser before the start, but it turns out that they were the ones disqualified. Why so, Mitch?
That was just part of the racing. You know, I got behind out there in the start, decided to come back around, made a start from the outside. I mean, I felt like I gave everybody plenty of room, but they're saying that I came in on the best ELAM.
All right. And as for what happened before the race, what's your take on that with the Budweiser situation?
That's just part of the mix. You know, you're out there racing around. I mean, obviously, I don't think Dave saw me. I turned inside of him, you know, was able to I was going to try to get away from him, but obviously he just got right in front of me, put the fire out, so I had to restart.
It seemed as though, yeah, you had some trouble at the start. Was it any problem with the engine, or was that a result of what the Budweiser did?
After it gets wet, the motor has a hard time recovering from that. It was a pretty good shot, so once the power is down, it's hard to get the thing cleaned out and get it rolling again.
Well, 3 wins on the day for Mitch Evans, but in the final comes up short, disqualified. The Pico goes on to pass the Appian Geronimo, disqualified in the final. Back up to Steve.
All right, Bill Wixie, the boats are coming out of the water for another seafair. The 48th time the Thunderboats have flown across the waters here along Lake Washington. And now the log boom is going to start breaking up. Folks are going to start moving off and enjoying the rest of their Sunday. In the meantime, they'll talk about this one. They'll talk about all the conspiracy earlier today and earlier in the week. But as it turned out, what they ended up with was a very fast Budweiser boat, Scott, and a Dave Vilwalk at the controls who knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he did it out there on the course.
And he did, and he didn't buy into the conspiracy theory, obviously. And Steve David, having crashed and probably watching us from Harborview, you know, didn't help the situation for the other drivers, because Steve just really gets a lot of delight into trying to get underneath Vilwalk's skin, and he wasn't there to antagonize them. They all ran clean. Mitch did move over on the elam. We saw it in an overhead, and that was a fair call, and I'm sure he's real disappointed. But you know, Budweiser, you got to say Dave Vilwalk came back and he did it, and you got to give him his credit.
Bill Rocky is in the pits with more for us. Bill?
You got Nate Brown right here, and they were just talking up there. It looked like it was Dave Vilwalk's day, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, they are a great team and very well prepared. You know, what do you say about the Budweiser team? The Lumar team, however, with what they had to run with, one propeller, one gearbox combination, third place, you can't beat it. You know, we had a couple lucky things in the final there, and I mean, we came out okay, you know, so no complaints at all. You know, Lucky and Bucky that were with me earlier, you know, I'm donating them to Tony Ventrella Cystic Fibrosis, well, I can't pronounce that, auction. So everybody knows, you want to buy those 280 mile an hour Beanie Babies, you can do that. But this one here gave me some good luck today. Thank you very much. Mwah. All right, that's your wife, I know that, so I can't give that one away.
Okay, Nate, thanks a lot. A great day, third place for the Lumar. Steve, back to you.
Bill, thank you. Thanks to Chopper 7 and Bill Heinlein and Clark Stahl. Great pictures all day long to show you the race as it happened. Come back with some final thoughts and what's to come here at Seafair. Hey, we're not done yet. Well, Well, the champion of the Seafair Texaco Cup 1998 is Dave Villwock and Team Budweiser, and they're set to receive the presentation of the award.
About the trophy that we're handing out today. This is a replica trophy of the original Seafair trophy that was made nearly 50 years ago. And this looks exactly like the original Seafair trophy. That's what we're giving out to the winning drivers today.
On behalf of the thousands of shareholders, employees, retailers, and wholesalers worldwide for Texaco, it's my pleasure to present this trophy to the winner of the Miss Budweiser team, the driver Dave Wilczak, and the owner Bernie Little. Thank you. Dave.
Hey, thanks everybody. Like I say, I'm very appreciative that Budweiser stuck with me, Bernie Little stuck with me, my team stuck with me, you know, through a tough time, and I'm real thankful to Dr. Trumbull, who's out there someplace, I'm sure he's watching, because he helped put me back together and help me get here today. So thank you very much, Seattle. As a matter of fact, that's 3 wins for me now. Three.
Congratulations to Dave Villwock and Bernie Little and the entire crew. They won, and they deserve to win. They ran faster and better than everybody today, and congratulations to them. So again, here are the results now of the Texaco Cup at Seafair 1998. And you have the U1 Miss Budweiser. Dave Villwock, the champion here at Seattle, an average speed of a shade over 135 miles an hour. The Pico American Dream, last year's winner with Mark Evans at the control. The winners then come in second place today. Nate Brown sneaking in for the third place in Lumar Window Film. Tweeton's RV Mart, Ken Muscatel picks up a fourth place finish in the Champlain's Bellevue, Volkswagen, and Jerry Hale coming in fifth. Again, the disqualification for perhaps the second fastest boat all day long, the Appian Geronimo. They're disqualified. Mitch Evans, the driver there. Bill Rocky is in the pits. Bill?
Great day racing here. Too bad Steve David went over, but as we've seen in the past, that happens. I think the Pico American Dream saved their best for last, and they almost gave Dave a run there and had a chance to win this thing, but they settled for second. Dave Villwock, just the boat to beat going in, and he proved to be the best boat today, and he deserves this Texaco Cup here in 1998. Steve, back to you.
Bill Rocky, great job in the pits today. Back to the presentation stage. Dave Villwock must like it up there because now he gets an award for the fastest lap.
On behalf of Budweiser, I'm pleased to present Dave you the plaque for the fastest time today in beautiful Seattle and winning the championship here. On behalf of Budweiser, to everyone, congratulations, buddy. Thank you very much. 148 plus.
Well, I got to thank Budweiser, all the people here in Seattle. We have, you know, the guys set out to run a really fast competition lap here. You know, we've run here, and most of the races were won with a 140 mile an hour lap, but Mark Smith, Dixon Smith, Lauren Sawyer got together and took our brand new T5 boat that we've been working on for a year or so and made it the fastest boat ever here for us. And 148 miles an hour, that's a lot of steam in the competition. So thanks a lot.
Dave Villwock accepting the award for the fastest lap today. Tony Ventrella accepts our congratulations and thanks for a great job in the pits, Tony.
Steve, I think my favorite story here is the happy ending of the Dave Villwock story. It's not an ending, it will continue. But a year ago, let's face it, he was watching from a hospital, didn't know what was going to happen with his injured hand, and here he is now holding the championship trophy. He did have the boat with the most speed, turned out to be the best driver today as well. For the most part, we had some clean, very close and good races. Everybody had a good time. They got too much sun. What else can I tell you? A very successful Seafair 1998. Congratulations to the winner, Dave Villwock. It's been fun.
It has been, Tony. Thank you. Let's check out the start-finish line again. Another superb job by Mike Fitzsimmons.
Well, I enjoyed it. That was a good boat race, and of course the best boat was the Miss Budweiser today. No question about it. They've got tremendous speed. They've got tremendous crew. They put together an outstanding racing machine all day long, and Dave Villwock drove it beautifully. Congratulations to Dave Villwock and the Miss Budweiser team for this particular race, and we'll still hear from the Appian Geronimo and Mitch Evans in the future. He's an up-and-comer. He's finally got himself a first-rate ride, and he'll eventually be a winner.
Michael, thanks very much. And finally, a thanks to our friend Scott Pierce up here on the tower all day with us, adding the driver's side of things. Scott, appreciate it.
Well, Steve, it's always a pleasure. And we saw some good driving today. Obviously, Dave Vilwalk was the best driver today. Mark Evans made a nice charge to get into second place, and a boat that wasn't doing so well when the day started. Some of the other guys maybe have to go home and re-examine what they're doing and do a little homework. But all in all, it was a great race. I'm really sorry for the Harvey team, and I know it's a big blow to Jim Harvey, and I'm glad Steve David's okay. He's one of my dearest friends, and you just hate to see that. So it's all good. If it's a broken toe, we can take that.
Scott Pierce, thank you. We've got lots yet to do. Now, the racing is over, but there are still stories to follow. There are thousands and thousands of people trying to get out of the area here. There are also reports on Steve David, and we'll have that for you as well. Stay tuned. We've got more.
The 1998 Seafair Texaco Cup has been brought to you by Texaco, a world of energy, and by Southwest Airlines, the official airline of Seafair, giving you the freedom to fly.
KIRO 7 Eyewitness News, Lisa Hughes and Mike James.